Welcome to the Grants Portal How-To video series, presented by FEMA's Training, Design, and Development section. This video will provide an overview of the damage inventory, also known as the list of impacts, and how to input damages into Grants Portal as an applicant and as a recipient. This video was recorded on March 31, 2022.
Welcome to the Damage Inventory webinar, Creating a Damage Inventory and Grouping of Disaster Impacts. Our agenda for this training includes defining damage inventory and lists of impacts, discussing the categories of work, explaining, describing, and grouping damages, utilizing the damage inventory in Grants Portal, and while we're in there, we'll also discuss adding and editing individual line items, as well as the damage inventory template. We'll discuss the next steps, what happens with the damages entered in Grants Portal, because they are the building blocks of projects and several workflow components thereafter. We'll look at resources regarding damages, and in closing, I'll provide some reminders and additional resources available for assistance. Let's start with the damage inventory. This is also known as the list of impacts. The damage inventory, or DI, is a detailed list created by the applicant and FEMA Program Delivery Manager, or PDMG, to capture all disaster-related impacts and claims for reimbursement from public assistance. The damage inventory is transitioning to being called List of Impacts. So you can look for the List of Impacts information in the Public Assistance Program and Policy Guide, or PAPA-G. That's around page 60. Please know that you'll see damage inventory, or DI, used in Grants Portal. A DI includes all of the debris removal, emergency work activities, and damaged facilities that the applicant is seeking public assistance reimbursement for. Damage inventory line items, sometimes also just shortened to line items, are individual impacts or comprehensive activities that are captured on the DI, one per row. The DI will be entered into Grants Portal and used to create projects. The Program Delivery Manager and the applicant will work together to make sure all of the activities and impacts are captured and separated properly on the DI. They will also work together to group the individual line items into projects in a way that makes sense. This is usually discussed as logical groupings. The line items are used to develop the damage description and dimensions, or DDD, a scope of work, and the costs of the specific project that they are a part of. Regarding the timeframe allowed to complete the DI, all impacts and damages must be identified by the applicant, included in the DI, and entered into Grants Portal within 60 days of the recovery scoping meeting or the certified completion of the recovery scoping video. FEMA may extend the deadline to identify and report the impacts if the applicant submits a request for extension and provides justification based on extenuating circumstances, and if that request is approved. Next, we're going to review the categories of work. A category of work must be identified for each damage line item. These categories are grouped into emergency work and permanent work. Emergency work includes Category A, debris removal, and Category B, emergency protective measures. Permanent work includes Category C, roads and bridges, Category D, water control facilities, Category E, buildings and equipment, Category F, utilities, and Category G, parks, recreation, and other facilities, which also includes things like engineered beaches, as well as all mass transit facilities like subways and railways, airports, ports, and harbors. Debris removal activities, including clearance and disposal, are eligible as Category A if the removal is in the public interest based on whether the work eliminates immediate threats to lives, public health and safety, eliminates immediate threats of significant damage to improved public or private property, ensures economic recovery of the affected community to the benefit of the community, or mitigates risks to life and property by removing substantially damaged structures. All debris removal activities may be grouped into a single line item. It is not necessary to include multiple or separate line items, even if the applicant removed debris from multiple locations. Campus-wide, county-wide, jurisdiction-wide, and similar are sufficient to include in the damage description to identify multiple locations. Some examples of emergency work that FEMA usually groups together can be found on page 61 of version 4 of the Public Assistance Program and Policy Guide, or PUPA-G. These initial emergency work groupings include grouping all debris removal by type of location. For instance, all debris removal from public property, all debris removal from waterways, and all debris removal from private residential property or commercial property when eligible. The PUPA-G includes initial groupings for other types of emergency work as well as for permanent work. Work with your PDMG to determine what can be grouped into a single line item. Activities with eligibility concerns may need to be separated from other work. And further discussion may be needed for things such as the removal of debris from a waterway, which could be the responsibility of another federal agency, the temporary relocation of facilities, because facilities that do not provide essential community services may be ineligible for temporary relocation, the removal of debris from private property, also known as PPDR, which has a separate and required application and approval process, and demolition debris, which could belong to another work category. For Category B work, emergency protective measures conducted before, during, and after an incident are eligible if the measures eliminate or lessen immediate threats to lives, public health, or safety, or eliminate or lessen immediate threats of significant additional damage to improved public or private property in a cost-effective manner. Multiple departments and emergency protective measure activities can be grouped into a single line item. To have separate line items for each department, each line item will need to be supported with separate source documentation and costs specific to that line item. Category C, roads and bridges, includes paved, gravel, or dirt roads, road systems, and specific road components such as culverts and low-water crossings, as well as bridge components like decking and guardrails. Category C grouping is often disaster-specific. Regarding roads, individual road segments should not be listed as separate items. Generally, road damage should be logically grouped based on the applicant source documentation, geographic area, districts, or zones. Applicants must identify road locations on a list or on a map. A description of county-wide roads without supporting documentation, like a list of GPS locations or a location map, will not be sufficient. For culverts and bridges, each culvert and bridge needs to have its own damage inventory line item. Check with your recipient. Requirements for what constitutes a bridge can vary from state to state. Category D, water control facilities, includes but isn't limited to dams, reservoirs, levees, flood walls, irrigation and pumping facilities, canals, sediment basins, shipping channels, and navigational waterways. Each facility should be on its own damage inventory line item. Category E, buildings and equipment, includes structures and contents, as well as certain equipment. Buildings should include structural and non-structural components of the building and mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems. Each building will be on its own damage inventory line item. Damaged components of the building do not need their own line items. Things like windows and doors, drywall, flooring, ceiling tiles, cabinets, siding, HVAC, chillers, and pumps. The site inspector or validation specialist will input the components into the DDD of the building. Building contents includes non-computerized items, supplies, and materials inside the building, including furniture, decorations, cubicles, examination tables, heaters, and fans. Supplies that are designated for single use, like pens and pencils and catheters and needles, are also building contents. The contents of each building requires their own line item. Category E, equipment, includes things that may have a serial number and are used repeatedly, like photocopiers, radios, defibrillators, also vehicles, and construction equipment. Additionally, this includes things like file and data recovery, as well as research-related contents like reagents and specimen collections, and housed or exhibited items. Examples of Category F utilities include water storage and treatment facilities, natural gas distribution, power generation facilities, sewage collection and treatment systems, and water and wastewater systems. Each facility is a single line item. Do not separate each component, each pole or transformer, for instance. And for electrical transmission or distribution systems, replacing a conductor will need to be its own line item, and there are specific conditions that need to be met for that to be eligible. Category G, Parks, Recreation, Other, also includes beaches, sports fields and courts, swimming pools, fish hatcheries, playground equipment, airports, and other facilities that do not fit into categories C through F. Category G also includes mass transit systems. Whole systems, like the New York City subway, San Francisco's Bay Area Rapid Transit, or BART, railways, or a bus line can each be their own line item. Ways to split up a mass transit system into multiple line items would be if an applicant identifies routes by color. The red and blue bus lines could each be listed as separate line items or combined into one line item depending on how the maintenance records are kept. Continuing with Category G, each airport, port, harbor, or engineered beach needs its own line item. Subcomponents of the facility do not need their own line item. For example, the lighting-related items in a park, equipment, or a damaged swing set. Buildings, roads, or other facilities within a park should be defined as those distinct categories of work and listed as individual line items. So bathroom buildings, the park office building, or a maintenance shed, those things within a park would each be listed as a separate Category E damage inventory line item. Additionally, a road through the park and a culvert which may have been flooded and needed to be repaired would each be listed as separate Category C items on the damage inventory. Please note that unimproved natural features are ineligible. Let's continue to explain, describe, and group damages. When naming the damage, ensure that the name is clear and distinctive. The name of the damage auto-populates in the DDD and scope of work in Grants Portal. So for instance, instead of using a damaged road, name the road, such as Mills Road. Don't use something generic like Category A. Be specific, like debris removal countywide. The description of each line item should provide a high-level summary of the damage sustained and activities specific to a facility or activities performed. You want to accurately describe the type of facility, the damage components of the facility, what caused the damage, and the extent of the damage to the facility. Also, if the facility was affected by flooding, ensure that the description includes the length of time the facility was underwater. An example may be HVAC in the basement of a 10,000 square foot, 2-story brick building impacted by floodwaters for 2 days. Multiple activities may be included in a single line item. Here is an example with multiple activities by different groups implementing emergency protective measures. The applicant had Public Works Department placing sandbags, police blocking off streets, and the establishment of an emergency operations center with participation from multiple departments. All of these emergency protective measures should be included in the description of a single Category B line item. Remember, temporary facilities have a different eligibility criteria to consider. So if the applicant established a temporary facility as part of these activities, it would have to be its own individual line item. It would not be included in the damage inventory line item with those above, but could be combined with it in a single project. Labor should be included in the same line item with the activity performed, equipment used, and other associated components of the work. For more detailed information about labor costs, be sure to see the eligibility criteria based on type of employment and work performed in the PAPA G. There are some key things to think about as you consider grouping damage line items into projects. A DDD, a scope of work, and a cost need to be developed for each line item. Consider grouping damages together in a way that allows the process to proceed efficiently. Groupings are made based on several criteria. Some common concerns include the damage category, location, and type, grouping by percentage of work completed, the damaged material, and also budgetary allocation. Now let's take a look at the damage inventory in Grants Portal. The applicant can access the damage inventory template in Grants Portal. From the applicant event profile, scroll down to the damage inventory section and click on Manage. Here in the upper right, we have the ability to import, and this is a drop-down where selections can be made, and the selection would be to download template. Once that has been downloaded, you can access that file on your computer, and you will be entering your damages into that template. The first thing you want to do when you open the template you've downloaded is make sure that the information in the top several rows is accurate. The disaster number, the applicant name, points of contact, and contact information, as well as that for the program delivery manager. Now, it's important to also note that you may receive this template from your program delivery manager, and they may have initially started to enter damages into it as you will be working with them on this together. Make sure that all of the disaster-related damages are captured in this damage inventory. Do not make any formatting changes to this template. It cannot be stressed enough. Do not alter or manipulate or modify it. If you make any structural changes, the template cannot be uploaded back into Grants Portal. We're going to take a look at a template where some damages have been entered, and we're going to go through the selections that you will see in drop-downs, as well as the cells in which you will have to type directly. Here is a damage inventory template with damages already entered, and we're going to take a look at entering an additional one, as this has not been uploaded into Grants Portal yet. We're going to start with the categories. That is the category of work that is specific to the damage that we're entering. And for our additional damage that we are entering, the first category of work we're going to select is from a drop-down that appears in the cell by clicking on the arrow to the right of the cell that appears when the cell is selected. The damage that I'm going to enter is a Category E damage. And the next cell I have is the name of the damage or facility. You want to remember to be specific. And I have next to me the information that I can paste into the cell by highlighting the cell and going to the top and pasting the information in and hitting enter. You could also type directly. I need to enter the address, all address information that I have. And for me, it is the street information, and it is in the same community as the previous ones. So another thing you might be doing as you're completing and adding damages to this is to highlight information and then be able to paste it where it is also applicable to another damage entry. You want to enter latitude and longitude. These should be specific to each line item entered. And here again, I am pasting from the information that I have that is available for this particular location. Next is damage description, where I'm being asked to describe the damage. You want to be specific here. The ones I'm entering are going to be a little shortened or abbreviated for time, but you want to make sure that all the information necessary is here to describe the damage. The next cell is the primary cause of damage, and here we have a drop down again. In this case, it is a hurricane, but you do want to be aware that the categories that are available to you in your drop down are going to vary depending on the event and the disaster parameters that have been established. Next, we want to enter the total cost. Note that if you enter dollars and cents, that number will round to whole dollars. And for the next cell, you want to enter the percent of work complete. If it's completely done and finished, then that would be 100%. Here, this one is not yet done. It is about 90% done. For the next cell, we have a drop-down selection of abbreviations that are tied to the types of labor that are being used for the work. I'm going to step out of that cell just to show you at the bottom of the template is the key for describing what those abbreviations account for. So here, I'm going to select force account and contractor. For the next column, we're being asked if the applicant has received public assistance grant funds on this facility in the past. And as I click into the cell and look at the drop-down selections, I have yes, no, or U for unsure. I'm going to select no. The last cell in the row is to identify the applicant priority as defined by the applicant, low, medium, high, or urgent. So here, if we were complete with adding all of our damage inventory line items, and we have worked with the recipient and PDMG to ensure that all the information is accurate, all of the cells have been completed with the information we have available at hand. The header has been checked. Then the PDMG can upload this information into Grants Manager, and it will be accessible and available for the applicant and recipient to view and change in Grants Portal. The completed damage inventory template can also be uploaded directly into Grants Portal. If you are an applicant, work with your PDMG or recipient point of contact to determine if this is something you should be doing. The following instructions are intended for the recipient. For the recipient in Grants Portal, start by selecting Import. Upload the spreadsheet from the Import drop-down. Select your file to upload. Once uploaded, you will see confirmation in the lower right. If there are errors in the uploaded spreadsheet, the corresponding cells will be red and an error will be indicated. If you have any of these, choose the Cancel Import button, correct the spreadsheet file, and upload the corrected file. If there are no errors, you will have the availability to select the green button Commit Import. It's only an option if there are no errors. You will have to commit import in an associated pop-up. Select that green button again. And you will see confirmation in the lower right of success import committed. In Grants Portal, we can also add individual damage line items, even if the damages were previously loaded using the template. If additional damages are discovered after the damage inventory template has been uploaded, the applicant can add more individual line items. If several more need to be added, it may be worthwhile to have the PDMG add them to a blank copy of a damage inventory template and upload that template to add new line items. Or if you just have a few that you want to add, you can go ahead and do that in the damage inventory section of the applicant event profile. From here, in the Manage Damage Inventory section, you would hit Add Damage. You're going to select the type of damage you want to add. Donated resources would not be added using the template. They would be added here one by one, as would be Category Z or Direct Administrative Cost damages. Here we're going to enter a standard damage by selecting it from this list. We're going to add the information similarly to how it was asked for in the damage inventory template. We're going to select the category, and here for this it will be a category E. We're going to add the name of the damage. You could type in this cell. You can also paste into this cell. We're going to include the description of the damage. I'm pasting it here. You can also type in, you can change the size of this box if you need more space. I'm going to identify the cause of the damage. This list is going to vary depending on the type of event and how the disaster is in Grants Portal and Grants Manager. You would click this if you in fact had received prior public assistance grant funding for this category and location. I did not, so I will leave that blank. And now here we're going to add the location information. I'm going to add the street address by typing it in, putting the city, as well as the zip code. You could also use the location information you had if flat and long by entering it in that section, or you could zoom to it on a map. I'm going to continue to fill out the information by indicating the percentage of the work that has been completed and the approximate total cost. I'm going to identify the labor type that is used for this damage. And I'm also going to select the applicant priority of this particular damage. Once the information has been entered and reviewed, make sure that you save it in the lower right-hand corner. If you think you may want to make changes to your damage inventory line items, work with your PDMG to add, edit, and remove damage inventory line items and avoid duplications. Once a DI template has been uploaded, you can upload another template file, but all of the damages in the file uploaded will be added. So be sure the additional file does not include any of the damages you have already loaded. In other words, make sure the two files are unique and different because the process of loading them into Grants Portal is additive. Removing a line item is possible when it's an error or a duplicate or it has been combined into another line item. If a line item may be considered ineligible, but the applicant would like to retain it in the system, the withdrawal process can allow for that. So if the applicant wants to withdraw or remove a line item, it's best practice that they make that request to their PDMG. The PDMG will review it and, if appropriate, implement the request and attach the correspondence to the withdrawn DI line item. Grants Portal locks the DI on day 61 after the recovery scoping meeting or after the applicant signs the DI. Both the applicant and the PDMG can edit damages already uploaded into Grants Portal until the DI is locked. After the 60-day period following the RSM or the DI is signed, the applicant can request changes be made to the DI. The request is then made by the PDMG to and approved by the PAGS or Public Assistance Group Supervisor. We can also edit a damage line item that has been previously entered, whether it was entered by uploading the damage inventory template or by adding through the process that we just covered. In order to edit a line item, you would go ahead and select Edit next to the line item that you wish to edit. And now we're in the same dialog that we were in when we entered the information. So here we're able to make any changes, even from drop-downs, adding to text, or selecting again the cause. In this case, I'm going to change the approximate cost, which is lower than what I had entered. After you make your change, and you can change multiple fields as necessary, make sure you hit Save to save those changes. Let's talk about what happens once the damage line items have been entered into Grants Portal. Subsequent steps in the public assistance workflow are dependent on the damage inventory line items. A properly developed DI helps the workflow progress in a timely manner because it helps the PDMG create projects, the site inspector write a good DDD, and the consolidated resource centers scope and develop the cost of the project. Let's cover some best practices. If you have a PDMG assigned, please make sure that you're working with them to capture all of your disaster-related damages, activities, and impacts. They will help you with uploading or adding more damages and editing them if needed. Communicate with them early and often. Separate critical and non-critical service facilities into separate projects. Identify and remove any facilities that were not in use at the time of the incident. Enter clear and specific damage descriptions, and submit the damages within the required deadline. Review your damages for completeness and accuracy before uploading your damage inventory spreadsheet. Don't create more DI line items than needed. Removing or withdrawing them are different processes with different outcomes, and you have to know which one to do to achieve your goal. Work with your PDMG to complete the right process. Do not combine emergency work with permanent work in a single DI line item. Do not make a line item for every window, piece of furniture, wall, or tile. You have several resources available to you. Start with your PDMG. Ask them for an example damage inventory template. Also take a look in the PAPA-G. There are additional resources available in the Grants Portal Support Center, including an applicant quick guide for developing a damage inventory. I'll show you where to find that in Grants Portal. While we're in Grants Portal, in the upper right-hand corner, select the question mark icon to access Grants Portal Support Center. It will open in a new tab. We're going to go into Resources. And once we're in Resources, we're going to scroll down to the Applicant Process folder. In Applicant Process, we're going to continue to scroll, and we're going to be able to open the Applicant Quick Guide Damage Inventory. Here's what that document is going to look like for you. Let's go over some important closing information.
Please be aware that if you are working with any documents used for a FEMA grant, you are responsible for safeguarding personally identifiable information, or PII. PII refers to anything that can be used to directly or indirectly identify an individual. Some examples of sensitive PII are addresses, social security numbers, and financial account information. This type of information must not be uploaded into Grants Portal or Grants Manager. To report corruption, waste, fraud, abuse, mismanagement, and/or misconduct, contact the Department of Homeland Security Office of Inspector General by phone at 1-800-323-8603 or via the website or mailing address listed on the screen. Procurement requirements are among the most complicated parts of the PA grant process, and non-compliance can result in deobligation of funds. Please make sure that you are following FEMA's procurement guidance for recipients and subrecipients. The Procurement Disaster Assistance Team, or PDAT, offers some training and tools on their website. Federal requirements for procurement and contracting are described in 2 CFR Part 200. For technical assistance with Grants Portal or Grants Manager, you can call the PA Grants Portal Grants Manager hotline at 866-337-8448. National hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. The hotline can also be reached by email at FEMA-recovery-PA-grants@fema.dhs.gov. We have many recorded webinars and tutorial videos available on our YouTube channel. You can find them by searching YouTube for FEMA Grants Portal or via the Support Center in Grants Portal or Grants Manager.